Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be putting together a crock pot beef stew. Wow, say that 3 times really quickly. First I'm going to take my stew meat. I'm going to put it in a large pan on the stove. I added a little bit of olive oil to the bottom of the pan. And as my stew meat is kind of pre-cooking, because I just don't add raw meat to all my other vegetables. So we're going to brown our stew meat. I added some salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and we're going to let that simmer on the stove until browned. Now I'm going to be taking a large yellow onion. I'm going to peel it and dice it, and we're going to be adding this to the crock pot. The vegetables I'm adding to my beef stew today are a yellow onion, some turnip, also known as rutabaga, some carrots, as well as the beef stew, and a little surprise ingredient we'll be adding at the end, which I'm not sure if a lot of people do this, but I'll tell you and share my reasoning for why I add this special ingredient at the end. So now I'm going to be dicing up my yellow onion. We got out our crock pot. We're going to be dicing this up. Now, I don't know about you, but I find sometimes watching people dice up stuff and where it's a little bit of ASMR to be quite soothing. So I'm hoping that you will think the same and enjoy watching the full video of putting this crock-pot beef stew together. Once we've diced our onion, we're going to add it into the crock-pot. And then we're going to move along and cut up a small turnip. Now it's so good to see everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear it in my voice, but it's been a long old winter, y'all. I've had a lot of illness I've suffered with this winter. In mid-December, I got a respiratory virus that lasted approximately 42 days. Then about a month later, I developed this really aggressive tonsillitis that turned into quinsy. And my cat Moxie here wants to share in the voiceover. And then, so after, 10 days of some serious medication to try and get rid of this, I am slowly on the mend. I had no voice. It affected my voice box, so I ended up in emergency on some life-saving IV meds. So it's been a pretty rough, scary winter in the health department. And it's been really tough to kind of like set up the camera and go through all of the editing process and everything that's involved in making videos for y'all. But I thought I'm just going to try and use this POV device that I have to kind of just bring you along as I prepare meals throughout the day. So I cut up my potato, and now I'm adding a container of bone broth. Now, I don't know about anyone else out there, but I cook gluten and dairy-free. And it's really disheartening to learn that most of the broths out there contain or may contain some form of wheat. I mean, what? So I'm definitely going to be doing, I think, a homemade bone broth compilation that we'll be bringing to you later this year or over the summer as we make all of our beautiful stuff that we can use over the winter. So now I'm moving on and I'm cutting up my carrots. I'm dicing them up into smaller pieces, and then we're going to be adding this into our crock pot. So I thank everyone for your patience. I also want to thank all of the new subscribers that have subscribed to my channel. If you enjoy any of my content and you happen to be eating gluten and dairy free, then please, by all means, binge as much of my previous content as you can, as it really helps support my channel. Because one thing about being off and not posting regularly is your watch hours plummet, and it's really, tough on the channel. So right here, I'm adding a couple of bay leaves and also a handful of peppercorns. Next, we're moving on and we're going to be peeling our potatoes. I really enjoy using a yellow flesh potato or a Yukon Gold potato. I find them the most delicious form of potato, most versatile. I also cut my potatoes up a little bit bigger than I cut up the turnip or the carrots. Because the potatoes take less time to cook, I make them a little bit bigger so that they just don't end up being mush in my stew. So once we've cut all of these up, as I struggle to breathe still, we're going to cut these up into, like I say, a little bit larger pieces and be adding this into our crock pot stew. Is everyone excited for spring? Has everyone started, or some of you out there, started your seedlings? I'm going to be doing a much larger patio garden this year, and I think I'm going to be investing in some green stock type paraphernalia where they are in tiers that go upward from like 5 to 7 tiers so that you can grow as many things as you can, so that I can hopefully maximize my space on my studio patio garden. So I'll definitely bring you along for that. Now we're going to be adding some ground pepper, some salt, and some garlic powder. And by all means, you can definitely add some fresh garlic to your crock pot stew. Today, I'm doing the easy way and just adding some garlic powder. Now I'm going to be adding my stew meat. Now I leave the juices and everything that from it simmering on the stove and the olive oil and everything into the stew meat. Add all that deliciousness in. The olive oil is really good for you, and all of the broth and juice from the stew meat is also really good and adds a lot of flavor to your crock pot stew. So we're going to give it a stir. And our last but not least kind of secret ingredient is I'm adding a half a can of some diced tomatoes. Now I think these are Rotel tomatoes that may have some green chilies in them, but I'm not sure if you're aware, but the acid that's in tomatoes helps tenderize your beef. So by adding a little bit of diced tomato, this is going to make your beef delicioso.